How media has changed over time through the eyes of someone who was a teen in the 80s. Some background information was I interviewed my mom, Sarah Perrin. She was a teenager in the 80s in Tigard, Oregon, which is a suburb of Portland, Oregon. Sports and music, she said, impacted her youth the most and how she saw the media and understood it. And also, she experienced media through shared experiences, through her friends and her family, and she counts that as one of her major factors of how she looks at the media then and also today. So for music and radio, she pointed out how she listened the most to U2 and Madonna, listened to the radio's top 40 a lot. Songs were not as explicit as they were nowadays, so there wasn't very much parental controls. Also, she would go to the record stores together with friends. There was a lot of cassette players. There's a lot of mixtapes, as well as MTV being very popular to find music and see music videos, as well as her family was very big about sports, so she watched a lot of sports games on the radio and in music.
The mid 80s.
Yeah.
No. So that's when like U2 and Madonna and those artists all kind of hit. So then we listened a lot to the radio, and it was like the top 40, and we all listened to the same songs then.
Yeah.
There were a lot of cassettes, and people, like, I had friends who would make you mixtapes and you'd listen to it on your little cassette player. So it wasn't so much there was a LP, like a record player, but there were cassette tapes. So like I had cassette tapes when I was in high school and college.
Where did you end up buying those music outlets?
Mostly, there were Tower Records was a really big franchise, but mostly like in college and stuff, we shared music. Like like a guy that you were dating would make you a mixtape, or like we made mixtapes for each other. I don't know how to explain it other than that. The mid 80s.
Yeah.
There were a lot of cassettes, and people, like, I had friends who would make you mixtapes and you'd listen to. There were a lot.
So for television, we talked about how she had a portable TV in her room growing up, where she watched movies like King Kong and SNL, as well as to listen to the television at her grandparents' house. She had to listen to this big dish that was absolutely huge just to get a signal. Also, there were rabbit ear antennas that she talked about, as well as a lot of the television shows were black and white and very staticky. It wasn't in depth and high def at all. Also, she watched TV together as a family, and everyone watched the same type of shows, so they got to catch up on kind of what was going on, and you could talk to your friends about it. It was more of a shared experience.
More widespread.
Well, I had a little tiny black and white portable TV in my bedroom when I was probably like 12.
Yeah.
And like I remember watching the original King Kong on it, and I remember watching Saturday Night Live, like kind of sneaking Saturday Night Live, but not all of your little Disney movies and whatever.
Where did you watch your first TV programs, and what was the viewing experience like for you?
Well, we had one TV at Lenny and Pop's.
Yeah.
But I mostly remember at Grammy and Papa's at the ranch, which was pretty remote.
Yeah.
They had a satellite, like they went to the expense of getting a satellite dish for their TV. at their remote ranch in Southern Oregon.
Mhm.
And the dish was probably as big as the patio at our beach house. Like, it was probably 16 feet wide, 16 feet by 16 feet in diameter, this dish.
Yeah.
It was huge. It like took, like in order to watch different things, because there was pretty much only 3 networks.
Yeah.
You had to like move it around, and there were also rabbit ear antennas on top of the TV.
Mhm.
So it was black and white. It was pretty snowy, if you know what I mean when I say that.
It's staticky.
Yeah, like it was all of your little, well, I had a little.
So for movies, with her family, she went to the Newberg Drive-In, which is in Oregon as well, where you took your own snacks to the movies. There wasn't as many concession stands. Also, she watched a lot of Westerns, Ghostbusters, as well as Raising Arizona were ones that she remembered vividly. Also, she absolutely loved Hitchcock movies, and it was a treat to go to the movies because it wasn't as affordable back then. But she also remembers in high school how she would go to dates on the movies. That was like the number one place to go for dates in high school.
This year or whatever.
Yeah. And then kind of transitioning into like movies now. What were your first like outgoing movie experiences like? And how are they different from how they were today, but not actually today, more before COVID today?
Well, we went to the drive-in all the time.
Yeah.
Lenny and Pop took me to the drive-in all the time, and I would have like the back seat, and your grandpa would make popcorn and whatever. Like, we took our own, like, we really didn't go to the concession stand per se. We mostly like brought candy and popcorn and snacks from home.
Yeah.
And we went to the drive-in all the time. And I feel like there were a lot of Westerns when I was a kid. Like, I remember watching a lot of Westerns, and I mean, like, when I was in high school, Ghostbusters came out, and Raising Arizona, and different things. There were some different movies back then that.
What were some of your all-time favorite films growing up, and why?
Well, I loved Hitchcock movies, which are murder mystery. They're kind of murder mystery movies. I loved them. They were beautiful. Like, they were really cool to look at, and we would watch, and we didn't really go to the movies then. In high school, that was always where you went on a date. You went on a date to the drive-in or a date to the movie theater. Because there was a big, huge movie theater at Washington Square.
Mm-hmm.
And there was, and Tigard Cinemas was a drive-in. So that's where we went. And there was a theater in Beaverton too, this year or whatever.
Yeah.
And that is the end of my presentation for when I interviewed my mom and got to examine how media has changed over time.